If you're on the lookout for an inflatable paddleboard that you can take into the surf, you've tuned in to the right video. In this SUPboarder review, we're taking a close look at the Honu Bondi Hybrid Surf Break Surfing Inflatable Paddleboard. Now Honu is a relatively new name for us, but they did start producing SUPs back in 2001. In 2019 they did a complete redesign with their inflatable paddleboards, and they're making a name for themselves down under in Australia where they are based. At the moment they're only available in the Australian market, but with so many great things happening with this board and the brand Honu, expect to see them in the European and US markets very soon. They are committed to being environmentally friendly and really do produce good quality paddleboards. But more about the brand later, let's jump into the specifications of this Bondi Hybrid Surf Break. The specifications of this board, it's 9 foot 3 inches long, comes in at 31 inches wide, is 4.7 inches thick, and that equals a total volume of 206 litres. This board weighs 7.1 kilograms or 15.6 pounds, and it's definitely suited to the rider up to about 95 kilograms. The inflation is between 16 and 20 psi. The board comes as standard as a 2+1 setup, and the recommended retail price is 990 Australian dollars. Looking at the construction of this board, is made from a woven drop stitch fabric, which a lot of top brands are using nowadays. It also has a PVC stacked stringer running through the middle to give it added stiffness, which is great for the waves. The rails are triple bonded and added for strength, and all of this means that you have a lightweight board. At only 7.1 kilograms, this board does feel light, and you are definitely getting good value for money with construction of this board. Looking at the fittings of this board, we first notice the large carry handle. It is padded, it's really comfortable to carry. Moving on to the EVA deck pad, it's a diamond shape with a crocodile grip, so that textured bony scale, and that'll really give you great grip on the board when surfing. And it also has a fair size kicker on the tail pad where you can really jam your foot up against when turning this board. It's got the D-ring at the back as well for your leash connection, and also the inflation valve behind the deck pad. Moving on to the whole package and also the accessories that come with this board with the purchase. Firstly, the bag. This is a really sleek looking bag, great silver color, small logos, and there's a nice big front pocket which you can put your fins in. It really does feel nice and comfortable to carry on your back. The straps are padded, and you have a little padding on the bag for your back, but not as much as some other brands. Still, the boards are very light, so it's not necessarily needed. The plastic zips mean they won't corrode with salt, and they also come with wheels if you're thinking of using this board on holidays or taking it through the airport, and that's a nice touch. There's no waist strap, but it does seem and feel like a durable and long-lasting bag. Looking at the pump that comes with this board, and the first thing I noticed was these nice large handles up here. You can really put your palms on the top of the pump and really get a good grip pulling up and both pushing down as well. It is a two-way pump, which means on the upstroke and the downstroke, you're constantly pumping air into the board. Once that gets a little tough, there is a lever on the back here that you can flip it over and change it to the single action, which means you're only going to get air on the downstroke, so it makes that upstroke a little bit easier. The nice thing about it is it does have the numbers 1 and 2, so you know what action you are using. It is a HP8 pump, and it has a maximum PSI of 29 on the pump, so which means you're going to get up to that 20 PSI quite easily. We notice it's made by GRI, which is a really top pump manufacturer, so it's a really good quality pump that you're getting with this board. You also get a 10-foot coiled leash with purchase of this board, and it does seem to be a good quality leash, quite thick, and it would be suited for those smaller wave days. And you also get a repair kit with this board as well. Looking at the fins, and this is where things get really interesting, it comes as standard as a 2+1 setup. It's got the larger center fin and also those 2 smaller side fins. But those side fins are FCS compatible, so you can put those glass fins in the side, which are going to give it that added performance out in the waves. What you'll also notice is that the fin boxes are towed in a little bit, so the front of the fin boxes are pointing a little bit more toward the middle of the board, and that's really going to help with maneuverability and turning. It's also going to put a little bit more drag on the board, which is going to help it slow down and really surf in the pocket of the wave. The side fins are a honeycomb glass material, and the center fin is a plastic mold, but it's really quite stiff. And also the way that Honu have designed their center fin is that it fits snugly inside the box, so you're not going to have any reduced water flow with any gaps in between the fins. Moving on to the outline shape of the Honu Bondi, and we see that it does really have elements of that traditional longboard SUP surfing shape, You have that rounded nose, that wider outline, and that's really going to help with stability out on the water. We notice that it does pull in a little bit more toward the tail, so this is going to give you some added performance on the wave. Checking the rocker of this board, we can see that it does have a little bit of nose lift up the front, which is great for paddling in those choppier waters, and also in dropping down the wave and surfing along it too. It's going to give us a nice little bit of lift so we can really drop down a little bit steeper sections. But we notice that it is quite flat running through the center and out through the tail. That's really going to help with increased glide, increased speed when paddling to catch waves. Putting this board through the deflection test and remembering that we inflate the board to between 16 and 20 psi, we inflated this board to the maximum 20 psi for our test. Now the deflection test, it does test for the stiffness and rigidity of the board, which is going to give you added performance on the water. Now with our deflection test, we have a 1.5 meter gap and we place a 75 kilogram weight right in the middle of that gap on top of the board, and we see how much the board bends down. And the Honu Bondi deflected at 15 millimeters. So this means it's quite a stiff board considering we have iSUPs that range between 10 and 25 millimeters in this deflection test. Now this most likely is down to that stacked PVC stringer that runs all the way from the nose to the tail of the board down the middle. Now we also need to keep in mind that thickness does influence our deflection tests. iSUPs tend to range from between 4 and 6 inches thick, with those thicker boards really holding their stiffness and rigidity a lot better. But this Bondi is only 4.7 inches thick, so it really does stack up well against other boards for its stiffness. Okay, let's move on to the good stuff. Testing this board out on the water, how did it perform? That traditional longboard shape outline helps with stability when paddling, and it did feel really stable when waiting for waves. The 31-inch width really aids with this and will be suited to those riders in the 75 kilograms to 90 kilogram weight range as a beginner. As an intermediate paddler, you're probably looking up even up to 100 kilograms, and you're still going to be quite stable on this board. And obviously for flat water paddling, if you're taking it there as well, up to about 100 kilograms would suit this board just fine for stability. Paddling over waves and the board felt really stable, but I just surfed a hard board, so jumping on this did take me a little bit of getting used to. It did have a bit of that flex that I wasn't expecting when I got on it, and it would just push me off as I paddle over waves. But I did master that with time, and I'm sure you will as well if you are coming from that hard board looking for a board that might be able to travel well. So paddling over waves, once you get over the wave in the turbulence, it did feel stable as well. But just keep in mind that inflatable boards are going to be a little bit more flexy and are going to feel those bumps a little bit more. One of the great things about this board is because it is so light, it's just really easy to step back and lift the nose up to get over those waves when paddling out. Catching waves, and I feel like this board caught just about everything I paddled for. It will take those beginner to intermediate riders some time to turn around to get ready to catch the wave, just because of the width and size of the board, but it does paddle well with speed and glide, and that's thanks to that flatter rocker underneath. I am going to say that this board is really suited for those smaller surf days when the waves are just rolling in, spilling over, not too steep and not too powerful. This board, I did have a few nosedives on the steeper sections when we were out there surfing it, but luckily we didn't catch too many of them on camera, so lucky me. But moving on to the performance of the board on the wave, and this board gets a really good trim going when you find the sweet spot. It carries through flat sections and felt really fast along the wave when you were standing toward the middle of the board. It tracks well thanks to those 3 fins, and it's relatively easy to maneuver and turn on the wave face. You could really feel the fins doing a lot of work underneath the board, and I'm glad Honu has these performance side fins to really help with hold on the wave. An iSUP's rail doesn't really bite or hold in the wave like a hardboard does, so relying on those fins to give you drive, speed and stability is key. That wider outline also helps to bring more forgiveness and stability to the board for those beginner riders or those riders who don't have their footwork mastered yet. So you're able to step in places and the board won't react too quickly. So really, it's a great board to really progress your surfing from that real beginner level. It's going to make sure you get your feet in the right position when you are turning the board and maneuvering it around as well. Getting out of the water and deflating this board was relatively easy. It comes with an adjustable strap, so once you do roll it up, you can put that strap around it to keep it in place. As with all new inflatable paddle boards, rolling it up those first few times, you just do have to find the right rhythm. You have to work out the kinks a little bit as well, but generally the bag is big enough for the board to fit back in once you do roll it up. So who is this board going to suit? Well, we've touched on it a little bit throughout this video, but if you're a complete newbie to SUP and maybe weighing in that weight range between say 60 to 75 kilograms or 80 kilograms, this board could be really great for you to get on the flat water and out into the surf as well. Now, if you're a beginner paddler on the flat water, thinking I want to get into the surf, but you're not really sold on a hard board for safety reasons and also because they can be heavy and quite bulky, well again, this Honu could be a really great purchase. It's lightweight, it's quite soft compared to a hard board, and it's going to get you out there having fun on the water no matter what the conditions are like. And at just over 200 liters, this board is suited to those heavier riders as well, but with a little bit more experience paddling. This is going to get you on those waves for riders up to around 95 or even that 100 kilogram mark. Now I must say that for the advanced riders, we'd probably be looking at something else in the inflatable surf market, something that's a little bit smaller. It's going to have a little bit more performance oriented shape to it. This is definitely feel like more of a longboard shape that you can get out there and maybe walk the board a little bit and have a bit of fun like that. Honu place environmental factors high in their brand values. Here at SUPboarder, we really love to highlight environmental awareness from a brand, be it good or bad, to really make sure we continue to look after the planet, help the next generation get on the water, and really make sure that brands are producing quality boards that are going to last and get their packaging right down. Now we can see that Honu really do this through using that eco packaging. Although the pump did come in plastic, we said they are looking to change that as well. But everything else came in paper or recycled plastic. Honu also participate in 1% for the planet, so 1% of their profits go toward the planet and helping those environmental causes. Okay, so let's move into the pros, cons, and value for money. Well, pros, I'm going to say it again, I really like that Honu have implemented that FCS side fin system. I think that's a great thing that Honu have done with their design, and it's really going to help that performance on the waves. What happens with a softer fin is you're going to get a lot more flex, which means the board isn't going to react as fast. So having that stiffer fin is really going to help you progress your SUP surfing. It's really quite a stiff board for its thickness, and only that 15 millimeters in the deflection test. I'd say that this board stacks up really well against a lot of other iSUPs on the market. The bag, pump, and accessories that come with this board are super quality, so they're going to get you out of trouble. Also, Honu really do have an environmental awareness about their brand, so that's really great to see in the stand-up paddling market. Moving on to the cons of this board, and there are some, such as that big carry handle in the middle. Again, if your footwork isn't fantastic, you may get your foot around this handle a little bit, so that is definitely something to keep an eye out for. Another note which I haven't mentioned yet is the grub screws on the fin. Now, because the grub screws are a metal and the fin boxes are that softer plastic, the metal grub screw does keep twisting and turning even when the fins are tight in the box. It doesn't really affect what's happening with the fins or with the board, and the problem with this is that you could rethread that grub screw. You don't get a paddle with the Honu package, but you do get a discount of 20% off if you bundle up all together with a board and paddle at checkout. And also the leash could be a straight leash instead of that coiled leash, just because you don't want that board springing back at you in the waves, and that coil is going to lose its springiness over time as well. It's going to get stretched out if you do fall off a lot in the waves. Touching on value for money, and the Honu Bondi model certainly does have a lot of value for money. It sits in that mid price point, but it really packs in a whole lot of quality materials and workmanship, such as that woven drop stitch. You've got that PVC stacked stringer that really increases that stiffness in the board. The bag, the pump, all the accessories and the fins that come with it as well. A really, really nice touch that Honu do. When Honu finally start to offer this board around the world, I think a lot of people are going to flock to it. Just talking about Honu, Bondi, and the Australian brand does make me miss home just a little bit, being here in the SUPboarder studio in the UK. But not to worry, there are some little waves out there this afternoon, so I'm going to take this board back out for a spin and get that Aussie influence, which will hopefully lift my spirits. Thanks so much for tuning in to this SUPboarder review. Remember, those beginner to intermediate surfers in that 70 to 95, 100 kilogram weight range, really going to be great to catch your first waves on this inflatable paddleboard. Remember to check out SUPboarder and also SUPboarder Pro, where you can unlock the biggest resource online for SUP information. So make sure you go over and check that out. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you soon on another SUPboarder review. All right, let's go surfing and get this board out without knocking anything down. All right. Okay, let's do it. See you later.